One of the young advocates at the meeting was my constituent, 10-year-old Albie, and his mother, who are watching the debate today from the gallery and braved the heat to come here from Oxfordshire. Albie's brother is diagnosed with PANDAS, and Albie has become a tireless and devoted campaigner on his brother's behalf. Albie has launched a letter-writing campaign, and he's already 19 months deep into his campaign and has become pen pals with the most powerful and influential people in the country, including His Majesty the King, the High Sheriff for Oxfordshire, the Prime Minister, and various ministers, NHS leaders and leading clinicians, and of course the Speaker's office. Albie proudly showed me in a constituency surgery and again this afternoon his beautiful handwritten letters and the responses all stored safely in a binder. And I'm proud to have on my wall in my office here in Westminster a thank you card from Albie with his trademark drawing of a panda. His next campaign is to write to all 26 main children's hospitals asking them to send a doctor or member of staff to the PANDAS Clinical Professionals Conference in October in Royal Leamington Spa. His hope is that if more clinicians learn about recognising and treating PANDAS, children like his brother will receive more help quickly. Albie is an inspiration to all of us and is driven by love for his brother.
Hear, hear.
I wish him continued success, and I'm sure he's assured me today that he's already dusting off his pencils to write to the Right Honourable Member for Makerfield. However, at just 10 years old, Albie should not be having to do this. He feels compelled to do this because the NHS and successive governments have failed families like his. His family have had a difficult time getting the diagnosis and treatment needed, and this is not unusual. When surveyed, only 2% of patients and families said that GPs recognised their child could have PANS and PANDAS. The path to diagnosis can take months or years with persistence from parents required to advocate for them. Many are forced to spend thousands of pounds on private assessments and treatment because the NHS support is inadequate. When asked by a show of hands at the all-party group at the meeting, every single young person said their family had paid for private treatment. It is unacceptable that an entire condition requires, by default, private care. It bakes in inequality and places extreme stress and strain on parents. I know as a parent I would do anything for my child, and Albie's mum is no different. But the financial pressure placed on ordinary hard-working families like hers is devastating. The lack of specialist clinicians and knowledge within the NHS appears to be the major cause of this, with too many clinicians misidentifying the condition and refusing treatments being deployed in the private sector. We urgently need better guidance for the NHS to close this gap. Families are already fighting to be heard by professionals that all too often dismiss or do not recognise PANS and PANDAS. Therefore, I welcome the announcement that NICE will review independently produced guidelines from PANS Guideline Development Group and PANS PANDAS UK through the Guideline Collaboration Programme. However, I am concerned by my most recent correspondence with the Minister for Women's Health and Mental Health, who sits in the other place, on this topic, and she said, should the evidence continue to increase, organisations such as NICE will consider updating clinical policy. My reading of this is there is no clear commitment that clinical guidance will be adopted by NICE, and I would be grateful if the Minister here today would comment specifically on this point.
Would you allow me?
Yes, sir.
At the risk of just labouring the same single point I want to make again and again, there really does seem to be no downside to telling all GPs, if there is any question at all that this child might have PANS or PANDAS, prescribe him one of the basic antibiotics, because he, or I should say he or she, could benefit from it tremendously, and there is no risk of harm.
Thank you, and I thank him for his intervention, and I wholeheartedly agree with him. There are very few downsides of prescribing an antibiotic, and especially in the case of the seriousness of this condition. As he says, there's really no good reason to withhold this medication. A second challenge facing families is the impact on the child's ability to participate in education, missing months of school because they are too unwell to attend. This not only affects their learning, but limits opportunity to socialise, make friends, and have a community beyond home. Every child has a right to education. PANS PANDAS does not limit ambition or ability. But our education system is placing limits on children with the condition. Section 19 of the Education Act 1996 is in place to stop this happening. It requires local authorities to arrange suitable education for children who cannot attend school due to illness. However, the provision is not always effective for children living with PANS and PANDAS, and parents still need to be advocates for their own rights, rather than being proactively told them and guided through the process. And there is a wider point here too. Families are often left fighting for support from multiple systems at the same time, including healthcare, education and local authorities, while trying to take care for a very unwell child. It's the last thing they need. There are steps the government can take to limit the challenges. Firstly, PANS and PANDAS must be researched in greater depth. It is currently unknown how many people are affected by PANS and PANDAS in the UK, and there is no official guidance on the diagnosis and treatment of these conditions in the NHS. Secondly, training of health professionals to recognise and treat the condition. PANS and PANDAS are conditions with a very high risk of long-term disability, exclusion from society and failed education. Families express that if only their children's condition was recognised sooner by health professionals, it could have had a significant impact on their child's well-being and outcomes. Third, to improve the support offered to children in education. The publication of the local authority guidance is anticipated this summer, and it is important that the guidance will ensure schools and services meet their statutory duties for children with PANS and PANDAS. Thousands of families are fighting for support from multiple systems while taking care of unwell children. It is time the government do their part and eliminate the barriers to diagnosis and treatment for those living with PANS and PANDAS.
Well, Albie is a superstar, as is his mum.